Scandinavia better to live than the US? That's the question for today's video. Hi guys, I haven't seen you for quite a long time. Well, this is my first video for this channel this year. And if you're following my personal travel channel, you know that I spent a few months in the US, in Los Angeles, and now I almost have all the rights to compare life between Europe, Scandinavia including, and the US. And considering that my personal plan for 2024 to combine my life between the US and Europe, the plan is to spend 6 months in Europe and 6 months in the US. Massive news for you guys. Finally, I realized my long-term dream and I opened my relocation academy. Together with my friend living in California, in San Francisco, we opened Relocation Academy. You can follow our communities on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We will be regularly updating you with all the news happening in relocation market. But we are helping those of you who are like us, who are looking for permanent settlement in a country of your dream, like the US or Scandinavia or any other country in Europe. We also helping those of you who are like me and you would like to spread your life between, for example, the US and Europe and spend the majority of your time in the US, but come for 3 or 4 months in Italy, in France or in Scandinavia to enjoy this European lifestyle. If you want to check lifestyles in different continents, please check all our information in our relocation agency. Join us, be a part of our community. We will be so happy to help you. But today, let's compare life in the US and in Scandinavia. Let's dive in. We all know that the US is the country of extremes in all ways possible. The US has one of the worst poverty problems, but also the wealthiest, the richest people in the world. Also in the US, you will see the worst schools and the best, the fattest and the healthiest people. I would say that the US society is configured to amplify every little difference that might exist between people. Scandinavia is completely opposite. While Americans' dreams of success is making it big and getting rich, Scandinavian society is more focused on perfecting the average life. Scandinavians tend to focus policies and practices heavily on erasing extreme differences and pulling everybody towards the middle. On these courses, American and Scandinavian societies have quite massive differences. American society is really optimized for material wealth and consumerism, and if you're above average talent, you might expect to make some more money in the US. Live in bigger house, drive fancier car, have more selection in the store you shop. To make it clear for you guys, let me draw some comparison between, let's say, typical American life and Scandinavian life. Your American life. You live in a big house with a big yard in a picture-perfect neighborhood, made up mostly of other successful people. You work long hours every day, about 10 hours per day, because in America slackers are not tolerated. And not putting in the hours means you're not taking your job seriously. You have 2 or 3 weeks of vacation every single year and your boss will probably have a heart attack if you ever go away for more than 1 week at a stretch. You drive about 1.52 hours every single day because American commutes are typically long. However, you have a really fancy car. That almost makes it worth it. And of course, you have your swimming pool in your backyard and your barbecue. And during the weekends, you're most probably having those barbecues parties together with your neighbors and hang out by the pool. You don't see all that much to your kids, but you're trying to make up for it. You're taking them to amusement park or water park once a month, as it's never about the amount of time you're spending with your kids. It's about quality time, right? As typically America is all about working hard and playing hard. Yard work is usually easy. You're paying cheap Mexican workers to look after it. Or they can even fix or install things in your house for cheap. You go out to eat most of the week because there are plenty of choices and it's quite cheap. And of course, you don't have enough time for hobbies and recreation because you are just too worn out when you're back home. After those long days and work, and your commute. On a positive side, you can choose quite a variety of different geographic areas and climate regions that poor Scandinavians don't really have an option. And of course, in the US, you have brighter and sunnier days. But you definitely have some other problems that Scandinavian version of you doesn't have. You spend a lot of time investigating the best healthcare plan and college saving schemes. You might have a pretty good insurance plan at your current work, but you're always worried that your job is not secure. Your work may not have been stellar this last week. Your boss isn't thrilled, and there were some rumors about killing the woods. You worry that means you. Maybe you dodged a bullet this year by working extra hard, but what about next year? On the other hand, with some extra hard work, you could advance to a new fancy position with a corner office, bigger paycheck, and some additional perks. And now let's have a look at your Scandinavian life. You live in a modest house. Forget about the pool. And even if you have a pretty good job, you don't have it. The pool, I mean. You are at work 8 hours every day. Sometimes you leave work earlier to pick up your kids. As the kindergarten, also preschool, they don't really keep them for too long. And your wife, as almost all other Scandinavian wives, also have a full-time job. And you are expected to take a part in your child raising. No worries though, as your boss 100% thinks that the family and your kids is the most important thing in your life and doesn't mind if you leave your office earlier. Your commute is likely much less than an hour every single day. Yes, people tend to live much closer to work in Scandinavia. In fact, you might be even biking to work rather than driving, or you might be even taking a train or subway. Recreation. With shorter work days in Scandinavia, you will spend much more time with your family and kids. You spend a bunch of time building Lego with them, riding slates, kicking soccer ball, playing hide and seek, going hiking together, or anything else you want. There will be some activities, but not as many of them as you usually have in your American life. Most likely, they do soccer training, summertime, and skiing during winter, while the American has much less time and usually goes into more paid activities. The Scandinavian version of you likely goes to local activities. The local neighborhood has more public areas, parks, playgrounds, and maybe even hiking areas. There is a big chance in Scandinavia you have your boat in the marina, a cabin in the mountain, or your summer house. It depends on what kind of Scandinavian you are, as Norwegians frequently have their cabins in the mountains or in the woods. And it might even be nicer than their regular house. On sunny Fridays or winter months, you frequently drive home much earlier from the office to catch that weekend in the mountains together with your family. And this is totally fine because your boss doing exactly the same thing with his or her family. For instance, in Norway, not utilizing that beautiful sunny day is almost considered to be a crime. If the weather is great, most probably you will drop any other plan you have, as it's time to go out, of course. And your house in Scandinavia, like I said, nothing compared to your American house. But you have a lot more vacation, at least 5 weeks of fully paid vacation, plus a bunch of public holidays. And there is usually no problem to take several weeks in a row. Going on vacation to Spain, Italy, or Thailand a couple of times a year is pretty much common. Your buying power might not be exceptional in Scandinavia, but everything outside Scandinavia looks damn cheap for you. Europe is of course so close by, with a variety of different countries you can visit. Want to do your Christmas shopping in London? Easy. Want to spend a romantic weekend in Paris? No problem. Canal boating in Amsterdam? Why not? Scandinavian work life. And of course, work life in Scandinavia is quite different, as there is not much of career here in American sense. Often it feels like there is only 2 positions, your boss and everybody else. Sometimes you even forget what sort of title you're supposed to have, as it doesn't really seem to matter. And yes, you have a lot of autonomy and responsibility at work. But on the other hand, it never seems to change all that much. You move to a pretty good position from your day one. But after that, there is no that much evolution, and your pay never dramatically changes. The American sense of working hard, moving up the corporate ladder and making more and more money doesn't quite exist in the same way. And if you are extremely ambitious and want recognition for your stellar performance, then you're probably in the wrong part of the world. Your pay is pretty decent, but you don't feel like you hit a home run. On the other hand, there are not a lot of other people whom you are trying to emulate, as everybody seems to be roughly at the same level of income and success. This may make it seem like you can be slack in Scandinavia, but in Scandinavia it doesn't seem like you put too much effort on getting all these rewards, perks, bonuses, and fancy job titles. You just do it due to your professional pride and your loyalty towards your company. As not really nicely done job reflects a little bit badly on you as a person. Always know that your company and your boss trusts you, and you feel sort of obligation not to dishonor that trust. Let's talk about home life. You don't have any cheap Mexican labor to do your yard in Scandinavia, and you don't go out to eat that frequently. On the other hand, your working days and your commutes are much shorter, so you're able to spend much more time at home, which means spending more time cooking and doing your own yard. A couple of times a year, you're getting together with your neighbors, simply for dugnad. Some of your neighbors can be a fancy lawyer or just a bank manager. Yeah, in Scandinavia, the neighborhoods are more mixed. You could, in principle, have people in the neighborhood who are some levels above you in the income and status hierarchy. Why does a person with a high income have to waste his time on this manual labor? But all his friends usually remind him that it's a very important venture in Scandinavia: solidarity, and doing stuff together regardless of your social status or your annual income. Picking up leaves, cutting bushes, yeah, dugnad kind of sucks. On the other hand, you finally have the chance to finally meet your neighbors and talk to them properly. Scandinavians are not really big on small talk, and they usually get to know each other through shared activities, even if it's to cut the grass or bushes. In your American life, you actually know all your neighbors, because Americans are way more social and chatty. And I bet you've been over to their houses, shared a few drinks. In Scandinavia, it's a typical thing that you don't know your neighbors quite well. You are quite lucky if you know them by names. But anyway, you'll get to know them slowly over time. And the best way, if your kids play with their kids. Or perhaps you are the same school board, hiking or jogging clubs. Further reflection. These stories are obviously biased, as I spend the majority of my time in Europe and in Scandinavia, and because my personal values and perspectives are closer to Scandinavian. Secondly, of course, it's because it's a clear clarification of Norway, as Sweden and Denmark have their own unique traits, and my personal preferences of going to the mountain cabin every single weekend will not be applicable somewhere in Denmark, simply because it doesn't have any mountains. With these little comparison stories, I just try to explain to you the differences between American lifestyle and Scandinavian, where Scandinavian is clearly less glamorous and more down-to-earth style. It also has much better work and life balance. But if you want to live big and reach the top, while actually feeling that you reach the top, then America might be a much better place for you. And my final note about the differences between living in the US and living in Scandinavia: in the US, be prepared for much more stress, a lot of hard work and lots of sacrifice to get there. Thank you so much, guys, for being with me today. Please let me know in the comments down below which area of this world is your favorite. Are you targeting Scandinavia or the US, like me, or you want to share your life between two continents? Please let me know in the comments down below, and as usual, I hope I will see you in my next videos. Bye for now. Bye, guys.